All right, well, welcome again to a new episode of the KewCast with John and Eddie, where we talk about all things related to pickleball gear and technology. We are coming to you from San Clemente, the PPA, and behind us there is the Johns brothers playing. Did you catch who they're playing, Eddie?
Roddy and Diamond.
Okay,
the
Roddy and Diamond.
27th ranked men's doubles team.
What's the score right now?
It's pretty close, 9-8.
9-8, okay.
John's brothers are down one.
Okay, they're putting it on them. But yeah, this is exciting. So
what a venue, man.
What a
this
venue.
Lifetime San Clemente is killer.
It is.
So nice.
I remember seeing it on TV, YouTube and pickleball TV, and last year especially. I remember the grass bleachers over here. I was like, oh, I want to come to San Clemente.
They've done such a nice job with this tournament.
Yeah, they have. This is a special Lifetime, I would say.
I would say so.
Better than ours.
Not like our two court setup.
Right. And you and I actually competed today.
Oh, man, what a day.
What a day it was.
We started off a little rough, 0-2.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what the scores of the games were. They were, I don't know. I guess they were pretty tight.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so we're playing men's doubles 4.0. Yeah, that's our bracket.
Yeah, 50 plus.
50 plus, the old guys bracket. Not the oldest, but close. And so we started off not so good.
I thought we were going home early, John.
But the bracket was round robin. So if it was double elimination, we would have gone home. Because we lost our first two matches.
Yeah, so two pools of 5 teams each, so 10 teams total.
Right.
So we played 4 round robin matches. Yeah. Lost our first 2. Came back and won our second 2. Ended up getting second in our pool.
Yeah, and it was by point differential.
Right.
So,
but in head-to-head play, we beat the number 2 team.
Right.
In head-to-head play. So that's what kind of kicked us over the top into the middle rounds.
Yeah. So got to the semifinals, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. Straight to the semifinals. Played a match. Won that one. So went to the finals.
Yeah. Won that one against the top team from pool 2.
Right.
And they were tough.
They were tough. They came back hard. We were up, what?
11-0?
11-0.
11-0.
They tied it. They came up and tied it, I think. Or did they get 10?
It was very close.
Right.
We ended up winning 15-12, I think.
Right.
But, man, I was sweating like a dog on that one, boy.
I should have pulled up their names. These guys were just exceptionally
Chester
kind.
and Steve.
Chester.
So nice.
Excellent, yes. Families were there.
Yep.
Yeah, all good times. I'm going to pull up my phone because I wrote down some names for people that came up and said hi. And so Ethan, that was Chester's son. Shout out to Ethan.
Big fan of the John Q podcast.
Yes.
Or the KewCast.
KewCast. Yeah, it's been great. So we went to the final match and ended up,
medal match.
Yeah, ended up we did well but lost, so we got silver. Silver Surfers, Eddie, you and I.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
I always like the Silver Surfer. Didn't lose badly. It was 11. I think both games were 11-9.
Okay. Yeah.
I think so.
Super close.
Yeah.
So 2 points lost on each game. And I can't remember. You probably remember their names, do you? The 2 guys we played in the finals? Peter's one of them.
And darn it, I
can't recall. Anyway, good sports.
Absolutely.
And really good players, too.
John, I'm proud of you. You, battled hard all day despite going down 2 games early. I mean, you fought so hard today.
Oh, God. It's because I had you beside me, Eddie. It's hard not to play well with you beside me.
That's super
We had
nice.
our ups and downs, but we pulled it through at the end. Next we got to win a gold in 4-0 before we move up to 4-5, I would say.
That's a good plan. Although the competition here, I would say, is pretty strong.
Yeah, pretty strong.
It's not like your backyard neighborhood tournament where 4-5 is probably a legitimate 4-5. We were playing some 4-5s today.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Above some 4-5s for sure.
Yep.
That's right. Well, we've got a lot to talk about. It's been a couple of weeks since we shot our last podcast. There's been a lot going on.
Yeah.
You had some events, didn't you? Do a session with Salome? A clinic?
Yeah, actually on my birthday.
Oh, nice.
So
happy late birthday.
Thank you. I treated myself to a pro clinic. Salome was in town, Denver. Mm-hmm. She was passing through, I believe, on her way to Indianapolis for another clinic, but spent some time with a very small group. I think there were only 8 of us, and worked with us on court positioning, footwork, making sure there's that spacing between you and the ball to get that drive going. Very helpful with that. Mm-hmm. for me, I tend to like hop up in the air when I go for drives and that sort of thing. And she encouraged me to keep my feet on the ground to help that power delivery, and that does help.
Okay.
But she is just super sweet. I mean, you don't really know a person until you interact with them,
right?
Face to face, one on one, and she's just so generous, so pleasant to be around. I would love to take another clinic with her someday.
Yeah. That's awesome to know that, because she gets kind of a bad rap for being, bad line calls, but. And it's hard to know somebody's personality based on seeing them on court. Because when I'm in a competitive situation, I'm not that smiley. And when I am, I'm not playing that well. Because I'm just goofing off, right? So I get it. Like, you've got to have, you've got to be in the zone, whatever it takes for you to win. So.
I thought the best part, though, was her sort of filtering into the games that we had going on. So she would, play with three of us in a game situation. And just being with her on court and seeing the speed of a pro, which doesn't really come across on camera.
Right.
It's just what a tremendous thing that is to experience.
Right. Yeah, there are levels to this game, right?
Yeah.
Playing pros really showcases that. Did you get a chance to kind of hit around with her paddle, or at least figure out how much lead was on it?
Yeah, I didn't hit around with it, but we did have some time to talk about equipment and what her paddle setup is. She plays with a paddle tech, and she's got probably 4 to 6 ounces of lead right at the top of the paddle. And so her paddle felt extremely heavy. I would say the swing weight was probably mid 120s.
You said 4 to 6 ounces on the top?
4 to 6, I'm sorry, 4 to 6 grams.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
4 to 6 ounces.
Okay. So right at the top, she likes a head-heavy paddle. It makes sense because, she's a singles grinder. Sits back at the baseline and just rips those crazy drives. Well, awesome. Anything else from that clinic?
No, just a really good time. Again, when you play with a pro, the speed is. I felt like she was letting us win and kind of toying with us a little bit because her ability to generate power is so effortless.
Right.
And she does do an amazing job of just court positioning, footwork to get to the right spot at the right time to deliver all that power.
Right.
She's a very slight woman. You wouldn't. I mean, it's hard to tell on video how big a person really is. She's not that big.
Right.
She's probably my height and a little bit lighter than I am. But to see those balls coming off her paddle was like, wow.
The kinetic chain for these pros is something else.
Exactly. You could all learn something from that.
Yeah. Well, I went to an event also and played with some pros also. So I've got similar experiences to you. Just like sitting in awe across the court from pro level play. But yeah, so last weekend went to, or was it weekend before last? No, last weekend I went to the Proton headquarters party in Phoenix, which is where their headquarters is. And hung out. I was surprised how many pros play with Proton.
Well, they've signed a bunch recently.
They've signed a bunch. I mean, we all know Andre Daescu and Megan Dizon both play. They've also got Caitlin Christian, Donald Young, really good to meet him face to face. CJ Klinger, one of my new favorite players. Watching that kid play, he's an animal, man. He's so good. His ceiling is so high. Travis Rettenmeyer, Angie and Alex Walker, the Walker sisters. They were all there. It was a big party, a long day. So I was there for like 3 days. And we started at 9 a.m. for the party day. And the party ended up being at 6 p.m. and going to like 10 p.m., right?
Right.
And during that time, we had like exhibition match challenges with the pros before the big party. So I brought out the Stalker radar gun and measured serve speed and RPM for the pros. And it was enlightening to see that the pros got about the same RPM as we do. For my test, like the highest is 2,300, 2,400 RPM. And Travis Rettenmeyer and Donald Young were both the highest of the pros getting spin, and they were at that 2,300, 2,400
spin
level.
off a serve.
Spin off a serve, right?
Gotcha.
Right. And miles per hour. They hit it hard, and Travis, I think, got like, I want to say like 63, 64 miles an hour on a serve. Yeah,
it's toasty.
He's got a loose wrist. that Travis. But yeah, and interviewed Travis, Andre, Megan. That interview's up. If you haven't seen it yet, they all are great people. Fun to interview them. there wasn't. So that I think there were rumors, or we were expecting probably that the Series 4 would be released, the new Proton paddle, during that party, but it wasn't. He had a couple for us to play with. I played one game, so I don't have a good feel for what it's going to be like. But I do know that it's an edgeless Kevlar paddle, and the surface is different than other Kevlar paddles. It's kind of loose Kevlar fibers, and the idea is that it's, as these fibers wear down, there are others beneath it that activate, so it continues to get the same RPM. The spin on it felt good. I would say above 2,000. I don't know exactly, but and I played kind of like what you would expect an edgeless elongated paddle to play like. I didn't get a chance to mess around with lead.
So this is not the nanotech surface.
Not the nanotech surface.
Famous for
something totally new. Yeah.
Okay.
And as far as I know, other brands haven't used this particular technology for the surface.
Yeah, you got to wonder about the durability of something like that. I mean, the way you describe it sounds a little bit fragile, but I'm sure they've worked out some.
Right, and you can kind of feel the fuzziness on the face. Right. And Charles, the owner of Proton, said that if I look at it under a microscope, you can see some of the fibers sticking straight out. But some of the exhibition matches, it was funny. So we did the stuff before the crowd showed up, and then the crowd of like 150 people showed up at 6 o'clock. There's a food truck, and I had no idea what was going on, and they would just call me to the court and be like, all right, John Q and Chris Callie are going to play.
Oh, no way. So it was organized in some way.
Yeah, it was organized.
Nice.
Chris Carson organized the kind of competitions. So I got to play with and meet Chris Callie, really good guy. That guy, I love his YouTube channel, Sorry Not Sorry. Jordan Yeager was there. So Jordan Briones' pickleball paddle reviewer. Really great guy. Love Jordan. He's a super cool guy and a really good pickleball player. He's like 5'5" plus level,
How's Chris?
How's what?
Chris Callie.
Oh, Chris Callie's good. Yeah, okay. I think he's around my level. Nice. Right? Yeah. Brandon Mackey was there also from the Pickleheads. So we played that match with Jordan Yeager and Brandon. So Chris Callie and I. So finished that, and then I got called up next, and it was pros versus Joes. So it was Thomas from the Dink and myself playing Travis Rettenmeyer and Donald Young. Okay. So it was a match to 7 and, win by 2. So it went pretty quick, but we hung in there. We got 3 points on them.
Okay.
Yeah. And
halfway to being a pro, John.
Right. So, surely they were being kind to us, but they also were testing us. Travis had some speed ups that they're just laser point to your right shoulder and you don't see them coming. He got me on a couple of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no shoulder, so I'm good to go.
But yeah, the speed and the quickness and the accuracy at pro level is something to behold and something to experience when you're on the other side of the court. But that was so much fun. And like I said, after all those exhibition matches, the pros played each other in kind of like a tag team sort of thing, where there's teams of 4 and a player would bring another pro on to substitute for them, and we just got to see all the pros play. Like I said, CJ Klinger is just he's so good and so fun to watch, and he gets really hyped up. So Chris Callie really loves to watch CJ Klinger and rooting him on. The hype guys were there. Shout out to the hype guys, and they were rooting on CJ and Megan were playing, and they were it was some of the best pro pickleball points I've seen played before. Fantastic stuff.
Are we going to get to see some video of this?
The Dink live streamed it, so it is on YouTube. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so you can look up the Dink, the Proton HQ party.
So the whole point of this was not some new paddle.
Just a party.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. There is a new paddle on the way. Right. But yeah, so that was that. Yeah, thanks to Proton Chris for setting all this up. It was a really good time.
And you came right from that into another tournament, didn't you?
I did. So last weekend, Chris and I played at the WPT tournament at Apex in Colorado. We played men's 4-5, and we did not do well.
No?
So we went down 2 games, and then Chris had a strain in his calf. And we were like, should we play the 3rd game or not? And we ended up trying to play it, and clearly Chris shouldn't have, and then we withdrew from the tournament because we didn't want Chris to injure himself. So we went down 0-3, unfortunately, in that tournament.
Well, that's kind of your sweet spot. That's where you
trying to play it, and clearly Chris shouldn't have, and then we withdrew from the tournament because we didn't want Chris to injure himself. So we went down 0-3, unfortunately, in that tournament.
Well, that's kind of your sweet spot. That's where your game sort of activates and you get going, right? So we'll just assume that you would have taken silver at least.
Maybe. We'll never know it.
That's too bad. That's unfortunate because you commit all that time and money, and you just want to play the games that you're.
Yeah, it's all right, and I hope Chris gets better soon. And Chris Fry, good guy, really good guy, great partner, always cheery, big dude, but doesn't have the attitude,
So
he's young.
He's younger, right?
Yeah,
like 30 years old.
He's
so
exactly
were you playing
30.
into a different age category, or did
30.
they combine?
We played 30 plus.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was combined 4-5 and 5-0. The second best player in Colorado was competing. We didn't get to play him. We would have. It was round robin, but we had to withdraw before that. He has like a 5'9" duper or something like that. Just a super solid player.
So how would you compare that experience at 4-5 men's to today's 4-0 men's?
There wasn't. I'd say the top teams that we played today, there wasn't that much difference to the 4-5 level competition. It was legit 4-5. I mean, obviously, they combined 4-5 and 5-0. Mm-hmm. So they were 4-5 and above. There, a couple of stragglers like me who's below 4-5, but the rest were legit 4-5s. And I think today, this is a pretty high level competition for 4-0. I think most people should have been in the 4-5 bracket.
I would say so.
Yeah.
If you were to look up their dupers, I would say most of them were. I'd try to say the lowest person we saw today was
4-3.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Well, lots of tournaments, lots of events.
Yeah, what's next?
So let's move into latest news, gear, gossip. So there's been a lot of news. You and I have been out for a couple of weeks, and it's just like, holy crap, there's so much stuff going on in pickleball.
The world turned upside down again while you were gone.
I mean, we didn't even get a chance to cover the $200 million lawsuit yet that Yola slapped on USAP.
We did a little bit on the last pod.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It seems like so long ago, I forgot. But yeah, so we'll just move beyond that and get into the latest news about the UPA-A. And there was some news, some speculation last week by Rob Nunnery, who posted a tweet saying that allegedly the PPA tours charging paddle brands $100,000 per year and $5,000 per paddle to certify them starting in 2025. But what he means by PPA is this UPA-A, this new regulatory agency. And then Rob goes on to say that USA Pickleball approved paddles will be sunset at the end of 2025 for UPA events. Thoughts? And then, it kind of led to a whole lively discussion, let's say. And
basically kicking USAP to the curb.
Yeah. So the concerns, obviously, I think there's probably two main concerns that I've seen from everyone. And first is obviously if you're charging $100K to certify paddles per year annually, that's going to eliminate basically all startup companies and most small companies. All right, it's a pretty big chunk of change.
And
right?
I would argue those are the companies that we've seen the most innovation from.
I think so. That's the second. The second argument is you're going to stifle innovation by cutting out the little guys and then making it an exclusive club of the big companies, right, where they don't really have to compete with the little guys anymore. So, yeah, I think you're right there.
And the initial announcement of the board members for this group, mostly big companies.
For sure.
Gearbox, Yola, Onyx, Vulcan.
All the big companies, Paddletech, Pro XR, Selkirk. Yeah. So that didn't look good, right? People were rightfully concerned. So yeah, I think yesterday UPA-A made a new announcement. So I'll kind of read a few important passages from that announcement. So it says, the United Pickleball Association of America, UPA-A. By the way, to clarify, Thomas Shields from the Dink brought this up, and I didn't realize it either, but UPA is the umbrella organization for the PPA and MLP. And they are for-profit, obviously, but the UPA-A, so United Pickleball Association of America, is a 501c3 nonprofit arm of the UPA. So they are nonprofit. I thought originally that they were for-profit, and I was like, is this kind of a conflict of interest? No, so they are nonprofit. So that's a good clarification to know. Anyway, let's get back to the statement. The United Pickleball Association of America, UPA-A, is proud to announce the establishment of the UPA certification program in partnership with third-party and independent equipment testing organization, Pickle Pro Labs, PPL. PPL will collaborate with the University of Massachusetts Lowell, renowned for its work with Major League Baseball on bat and ball testing, to further standardize the regulatory criteria and implement the testing process for the professional game across the United Pickleball Association, which oversees the PPA and MLP. It goes on to say UPA-A will offer an interim certification program to provide expedited short-term certification based on, this is important, paddle face deflection and RPM. I visited the folks at Pro Pickle Labs while we were at the Dallas PPA. Met Gary, the director of it, and his staff, all good people. And what they were testing on pros paddles at that point was deflection and stare it, so grit. So this is a new one, the RPM. And I found that interesting. So again, this is an interim certification. This is going to be the kind of first step, if I'm understanding the statement correctly, and then they will roll out something bigger a little later. So yeah, full certification program launches later in 2024.
You want to quickly describe deflection?
Okay, yeah. Deflection is when they take a paddle, they put it on a kind of a square, there's a hollow in the center, and then they put weight on the paddle, and they measure how many micrometers, the paddle bends, deflects, the face deflects. And they can't go over a certain point because the paddle face needs to be stiff, right?
So it's a static test. It's not measuring impact force or anything like that.
Exactly. It's a static test, and it's a proxy for exit velocity, for COR, right? It does correlate. It's not a one-to-one correlation, so it's not as good as what exit velocity would be, but presumably they will be rolling that out later. And another part of the statement is, it says, additionally, to provide a wider range of views, UPA-A will be adding representatives from independent paddle brands Volair, Ace, and 6-0 to the Equipment Manufacturer Advisory Board. So that's huge.
Good move.
What?
That's a good move.
Yeah, it's a good move. I mean, huge in the sense of, okay, these are the first, I'd say, mid-tier and smaller brands on that list of, before it was Franklin, Gearbox, Yola, Onyx, Paddletech, Pro XR, Selkirk, and Vulcan. So now we have 3 smaller brands.
I don't know Ace. Do you know Ace?
I do. Yeah, they actually sent me a paddle not too long ago, like a few paddles. I just haven't got around to. I hit it with them a little bit.
Is that the one with the ace and there's a spade?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that's good. That's good that there will be a smaller voice in there. So Eddie, what's kind of your take on all this? What do you think? What do you think of this whole business?
Well, initially, like we've already talked about, I had a lot of concerns about the future of innovation in the sport because I love it. I want to see more innovation, and I don't want to see that stifled by allowing only major corporations who have the deep pockets to afford this kind of setup with the UPA-A. So that hasn't really been addressed, the monetary side of it, but I am pleased to see that they've got some of those smaller manufacturers into the decision-making matrix of this.
My take on all this is that USAP was getting bogged down with approving too many paddles. And actually, at some point, it was late last year, I started a database, and I looked at the number of paddles approved per year. And it is a crazy curve that's rising exponentially. So last year, in 2023, they approved nearly 1,000 paddles, like 950 paddles. And the number of brands of those 950 paddles was 450. So there are 450 paddle companies out there, which is, yeah. And I have a chart here. I'll put it up in the B-roll. So there was, we're looking at just over 100 paddles in 2018 approved. It dipped in 2020, COVID probably, close to 100. And then it's been, again, this exponential rise since then. And, presumably 2024 is going to be well over 1,000, maybe 2,000, close to 2,000, right? And the number of paddle companies, maybe close to 750, 800, is going to be enormous. So I think that they were getting bogged down approving so many paddle companies. UPA-A realized that A, there needed to be something at the pro level, and B, there maybe needs to be a higher bar of entry for paddle companies. I think that...
I get that, John, but without companies like Vatic and Legacy and Rhombus, we would probably be still sitting around with Gen 1 paddles. I mean, these are the guys, the smaller outfits that are pushing the envelope, or have been until today.
Yeah.
And that's a major concern of mine. I want to see that kind of innovation continue.
Yeah, I totally agree. Although Yola, I would say, has been pretty innovative for a large company. Anyway, but I kind of agree that we could raise the bar of entry a bit. Right now, with the system set up, that there are paddles you can buy on Alibaba, and anybody can just order 100 paddles, put their brand on it, and you get the menu options from Alibaba and create a paddle company, which is totally fine for me. But I also realize that it bogs down the regulatory agencies. So maybe, I'm sure there's a solution where startup companies can still produce paddles. But I think from the UPA-A's perspective, probably there does need to be a higher bar of entry, and it needs to be more professionalized in terms of the certification. Because, if you look at what happened with Yola, I'm not pointing fingers at the USAP or Yola, but USAP approved a prototype paddle, and then later came back and seems to have kind of retroactively wanted to take it off because it was too powerful. They realized it after the fact, and if they weren't so busy in the first place approving 950 paddles last year, it wouldn't have slipped through the cracks, so to speak. All right, okay. Anyways, that's kind of what I think may be happening with UPA-A's approach. And I did get a chance to speak with Jason Aspis. So I called him yesterday, and he's in Singapore right now. Jason Aspis is the president of the UPA-A. And he was kind enough to take a break from his family vacation and talk to me about paddles. But it kind of confirmed my suspicions that UPA-A is trying to make a higher standard for paddle regulations, and they realize that they can't do that if there are 2,000 plus paddles to be done per year. So they're going to start, obviously, in 2025 at the pro level, but they do intend to go to the amateur level the year after. That's the intent. So, I was asking him, okay, what are you going to do to ensure that there is still a place for smaller companies, even startup companies? And, he said he's open to everything. I asked him specifically about that quote of $100,000, that speculation of $100,000 and $5,000 per paddle. And, he said that it was unfortunate that it was kind of released publicly or speculated on publicly because they have not landed on anything yet. Were you going to say something?
No, I'm just, so the 100,000, whatever the number is, let's just say it's 100,000. It's really nothing but a deterrent. It has nothing to do with anybody's fixed costs or whatever in getting this new standard, whatever it may be.
No, I don't think Jason would say that, although it does seem a little bit like, okay, they're trying to raise the bar of entry. To me, no, he didn't say that. And he said exactly the opposite. So he said, first of all, that the UPA-A does not have a annual revenue goal. Like they're not tasked with meeting a certain amount of revenue. They're tasked with cleaning up kind of the regulation of pro paddles, beginning at first, and then if it works, going to amateur paddles. Jason said basically anything's on the table, but they do need to charge something, and more than what the USAP has been charging, because the tests are going to be more thorough. They do intend on, after the RPM test and the deflection test, moving over to a exit velocity coefficient of restitution test, which is kind of everybody thinks that's the gold standard. I'm still a little skeptical that it's going to work as cleanly as everybody thinks. But, I'm open. Once they land on the methodology, I would love to speak with Gary at PPL and anybody, Jason, anybody, about exactly how they're doing it. Because I've messed around with it, and it's not easy. I know that Brian Fitzpatrick from Graffiti is also working on it. And if anybody's going to make it work, it's going to be Brian, And I trust Gary's team also, that there are a lot of smart people there. So we'll see. I just, just from my own experimentation, which, I'm no engineer, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to do it.
The stare test and the deflection test that they're proposing for this coming year would not have picked up a Yola Gen 3 paddle issue.
Well, the stare would have. If I think that's what they kind of busted the Yola Gen 3s on when they resubmitted the batch of paddles for approval.
It was for
after the clerical error. I think it was. I read through that court document and there was an issue with the grit levels. Yeah, that's right. Now I'm remembering more correctly. They use a stare at USAP, but Yola and the statement said that they use a laser recording of the texture and were able to determine that they're within the range of acceptable standards. Anyway, USAP is claiming that they failed the texture grit test.
Okay.
I did ask Jason also if he would consider a sliding scale, and he said, anything's on the table. Sliding scale meaning, okay, certain companies pay more annual fees, other companies pay less. And he mentioned, okay, if you're a smaller company, do you only want to release one paddle, then maybe the annual fee would be less for that. And then, batch it by like 5 paddles each or something like that.
Did you all talk about what constitutes a paddle for the $5,000 that was put out there? What is a paddle?
I didn't ask specifically, but I would assume that it's any model of a paddle. So, let's say, take the Yola Gen 3s, for example. So each model, so the Hyperion Ben Johns, the Simone
So
Hyperion.
the 14 and the 16 are different models.
Yeah, exactly.
They're different SKUs, so they're different.
Right.
They're considered different.
All different. Yeah, similar to how USAP is doing it right now. So each one of those
so
is
if you're going towards multiple thickness for paddles, sometimes up to 3, I think, for certain manufacturers, you're looking at multiplying your cost factor.
For sure. Now, I brought up to Jason, I brought up to Jason and I said, I realized that we probably need a higher barrier of entry for the paddles, at least at the pro level. But I don't think it's a valid comparison to say, okay, let's look at baseball. There are like 8 manufacturers of baseball equipment, and they had to pay extraordinary annual fees to get their equipment certified. But I think that would be a travesty at the level of pickleball. I mean, I think so much of the fun of pickleball is in the equipment, and we're all playing a game as adults and having a blast. It's like a childhood fun that we're reliving, and the competition's fun, but also the paddles. To so many people, not everybody. A lot of people they like their paddle, they play with it for a couple of years and move on to the same paddle. But I'd say the majority of people love to test out and play with different paddles.
Absolutely, that's the fun of it.
Right. And I would liken pickleball more to from my own experience, to skateboarding, right? There are a ton of different skateboard decks and accessories for skateboards, and that's so much of the fun of skateboarding is, you wear out your skateboard, you go and try a new company and get one of their 20 different options for a skateboard deck. The graphics are cool, the materials in the skateboard deck, they're using different kind of plies in that 7-ply layout. It's a similar feeling to me like when I used to be really into skateboarding, of just really digging that tactile experience of shopping for a new deck and new accessories and putting it all together and figuring out what works best for me.
Yeah.
If that had to go away, we had eight paddle manufacturers in pickleball. Oh, that sounds horrible, right?
Yep. So this sort of harkens back to my time at the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. It's a government agency. It has authority over pretty much all consumer products that aren't food or drugs. Mm-hmm. So you think of toys and consumer electronics and that sort of thing. And the federal regulations force manufacturers to certify their own products before anybody else certifies them. So they have to invest in the standardized equipment, in the testing protocol, in the people to make sure that what they are selling is safe. And then there's going to be further testing by third parties.
I see.
And so that could be a de facto barrier of entry.
Right.
To say, okay, manufacturers, you can create whatever you want, but before you send it to us, you need to be doing all these tests. You need to put the people up,
right,
to make sure that what you're selling us is within spec.
Honestly, that's a good model to look for. And honestly, like, they're listening. Jason's listening to our podcast, to Pickleball Studio, to Braden's Pickleball Effect, and others. And we're influencing how they're making these decisions. So I would love to hear from, our viewers and listeners on what they think about this and what solutions we can kind of pitch on the podcast and hopefully get them. Because Jason said he's all ears, and I'll trust him on that. So hopefully we can come up with something like your idea here.
Yeah, and maybe a formal open comment period.
Right.
Put a proposal out there, or RFP or whatever.
Right.
Or RFI, request for information or comment.
Right.
Have the public and manufacturers comment on whatever it is they come up with as a first draft.
I dig it.
All right.
Anything else on this topic?
Let's move on.
What's the score?
I'm not even sure who's playing at this point.
The game ended. All right, well, let's move on, Eddie, to paddles and gear of the week. So I thought we could discuss what we have in our pickleball bags. We're at a tournament, and I've always kind of wanted to do a video on what I take to a tournament in my bag.
Yeah, you're talking about paddles or everything?
Everything.
All right, you go first.
All right, so I brought the kitchen bag again. And as I mentioned before in the podcast, it's a smaller bag, much smaller than the bags I've been using, and I was a little hesitant to take it as a touring bag, right? But I love this thing, and I found that I can definitely make do with the size of it. So, kitchen bag, I've got obviously my water bottle in it, the other pocket. I've got sunscreen, much needed, especially for me. I've had my run-ins with a few skin cancers.
Yeah,
so,
and you've been wearing a sun hoodie.
Yeah, I wear a thin hoodie when I play and put the hood over my
How hot is that?
head. It's not bad.
Okay.
It's not as cool as sun sleeves, but I do wear those as well. But I've also got foot and body powder. I've got some spare socks in here, and I like to change my shoes and socks when it gets super hot and sweaty. Let's see, in the top pocket of my bag, I've got some gum.
Nice.
And I've got our silver medal from today.
All
which
right.
is nice. I've also got, so this is a key holder too. This is kind of where I stick my important stuff in these top two pockets. In the main compartment, towel. All right, so I always bring some overgrips. I use the Yonex Super Grap, and I always bring a couple of these or a few of these just in case I need to change out my overgrip. I bring some noise-canceling headphones, so I like to either zone out in between matches. Today, when we were playing, I was playing poorly first two games, and I went and did a little meditation session over. I went off by myself, put my headphones on, and did 15 minutes of mindfulness meditation, which I think helped
Are
my
those
game.
the QC2?
What's that?
The Bose QC2?
Yeah, Bose
I like
QC2.
those.
Yeah,
Those are great.
I used two sets of glasses today. So I had the tinted Briodes, and I have the Raya eyewear, just clear glasses. So I like to have a set of clear glasses in hand, because the Brody, you can change out the lenses, but sometimes it gets cloudy all of a sudden in the middle of a match. You're not going to try and be like, oh, hold up, let me change out my lenses. So I do like to have two sets of glasses, and my other one was the Briode. It's on the outside of my pack here.
How are those Briodes working out for you?
They're working great. I really love those. The tinting on those is fantastic. It does give me like a high definition view of the court.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. I bring electrolyte packets. So these are the Liquid IV. These are some of my favorite. There's a little bit of sugar in these. I think like 8 to 10 grams of sugar, but it's not like drinking a Coke or anything. And you can drink a couple, 3 of these a day and not get too bogged down with sugar and everything. And there's some of the highest levels of salt, I think, in electrolyte drinks. Tastes great too. I've got a little pocket in here as you open up the main compartment where I keep some tungsten tape in case I want to adjust my perimeter weighting. I've got a sweatband for my arm. I've got a battery and cables to charge my cell phone and other accessories if needed. What else is in my pocket here? Oh, Tylenol.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody could be helped with a little Tylenol, but yeah, my feet start hurting after 6 hours or more on a court, so that helps me. What else? Okay, side pockets. I always carry a couple of balls in case we need to warm up and we don't have any tournament balls. So in my pack right now, I have the Franklin X40. I've got a Selkirk ball. Those are the two I brought with me. I also have some different cleaning cloths for my eyeglasses, and also this is like a rag you can get wet, drape over your neck, keep you cool. I've got my Kineon Move Plus, which is the red light therapy device. I actually did a session today.
Did you?
Yeah, right before our final match. We had played for several hours throughout the day, and my foot was hurting, and used it on my foot and felt much better for the last match. Yeah. So it does kind of, some spot healing.
You do all sorts of things when you sneak away.
That's right. Meditate, red light therapy. I'm so woo-woo. I always bring some extra sets of clothes. So I've got a couple of... So I do wear a hoodie. Again, it's the super lightweight, wickable, thin hoodie to protect myself from the sun. Sometimes I do just wear a T-shirt and sleeves. Sleeves really, really are a way to keep the sun off your arms and stay cool at the same time. It's even cooler than going just bare skin, especially if you put a little water on them.
I've not tried those.
They're nice. They're nice. And I don't have any particular brand I'm loyal to. A Body Helix sent me some of theirs, which are really nice. Some of them get kind of runs in them like pantyhose. These do not, so far. And they've held up. They've held their shape really well. So Body Helix, I would recommend those. Snacks. So one of the ball pockets in the backpack is full of snacks. I typically like something that's not hard to digest and has a little bit of protein in it. Protein bars, I do eat a lot of those at home, but I steer away from those during the tournament because they do tend to upset your stomach. So I have trail mix, I have nuts, I have like fig bars, Ritz Bits. That is it. So for the paddles, I only brought 2 paddles with me this week, Eddie. Can you believe it?
What do you got there?
So I brought, my main paddle right now, which is the Chorus Shapeshifter. This is the one I modified, so I've got...
Great review last week.
Yeah, thanks.
Really good.
It was a great paddle.
I feel like you and I were kind of on the early adoption side of this company and that paddle.
You were the first to really, I think, recognize this potential, and then the more I played with it, I was like, yeah, just a great all-around paddle.
Yeah.
So I've got the Braden's Pickleball Effect tungsten tape on the edges. I've got the Onyx Overgrap, and I've got the Slice cap on the end. And by the way, Eddie, thank you for reaching out to Slice and getting a KewCast
there you go.
logo. Is this your first is this a collab?
I don't know if it's considered a collab, but they'll customize anything for anybody.
Okay, you can customize your own.
I dig the colors, man. They do a nice job with that. I don't know if it's a laser engrave or something else, but
they look really sharp.
It looks fantastic.
I brought you some too. Did I give those to you? Yeah. They sent them all to me, but this is all Eddie getting.
Yeah, look at mine in white.
Oh, sweet.
That looks so good. Oh, look at that.
You got another white one.
Thank you.
Is that green or yellow?
It's green.
Green.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is a 1 ounce weight on the base of the handle, and that this paddle's like 9.5 ounces with all the edge weight, and it feels super maneuverable in the hand, and all that weight gives it the extra stability and forgiveness. And so I've got this weighted up just how I like it. My other paddle, so the Shapeshifter, when you add the weight to it, shifts it a little bit to the power side of the spectrum. It increases the power and the pop. I brought this in case I had the yips, so the J2K, and I've got it weighted up the same as so I have the Slice end cap, 1 ounce there. I've got the tungsten tape on the edge. It's the same specifications, swing weight, higher twist weight though. So this, if I was feeling like I was getting too much out of the Shapeshifter during the tournament, I was going to change out for this. I never did because A, we're at sea level. B, it's humid here. We should talk about the Vulcan balls. Don't forget to talk about the new formulation of the Vulcan balls. But yeah, I never felt the need to switch over to this paddle. But
You know
I
what
feel
your
like
swing weight is on those, on both of them?
this one super high. It's almost 8 with the
Swing weight?
Oh, swing weight. This one's. I think this came up to. They both are around. This one's 118. The chorus is 121. Yeah.
And your twist weight's at 8?
This one's almost 8.
Oh my
The chorus is just over 7.
That's
J2K
nuts.
is a beast, man.
That is nuts.
Yeah, it's a good
great
paddle. So I think between these two, they have everything I need.
Honestly,
right now.
that end cap with the J2K is just a perfect partnership.
For sure.
Because it needs a little bit more maneuverability, which I think that speed cap gives it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Especially when you counterbalance it up around the edges.
Yep,
with the
you got it.
Tungsten tape. Eddie, let's see what you got in your bag.
Well, John, a lot of my stuff is going to be similar to yours. Extra clothes, food, hydration, all that stuff is pretty critical. But let me talk about what's different about my bag than yours.
Okay.
One is multiple hats because I sweat like crazy. This one is from Stack Athletics. I think they are affiliated with the Pickler.
Okay.
And they've got their own line of clothing, hats, women's, men's, really good stuff. So Stack Athletic on this hat, and I got the Cheers pickleball hat as well. So swapping between the two pretty much every game just keeps them kind of fresh.
So you reached out to both of these companies, right?
Yeah.
Right. And those are some sick hats. What's that company again?
This is Cheers Pickleball.
Yeah.
We'll put some information in the show notes.
Okay. Yeah, you got me one too. I was wandering around the house and really cool looking. I like this design. So that's the flat bill.
Yeah.
I have one that's similar but with a curved bill. And it feels super quality, like similar to melon hats.
The fit of these is amazing.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Sometimes the melons are a little bit big for me.
Okay.
But this one is just perfect.
Right on.
I love it. Okay.
Eddie, you're a beast, man. You're just reaching out to all these companies.
I love it.
Yeah.
There's so many small businesses out there that are doing pickleball gear, whether it's shirts or hats.
Right.
And I love them all. I want to support them all because they all do good work and they're making quality stuff. Based here in the United States, a lot of them, and it's just fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so hats. I too have kind of a tune-up kit here that I keep in an eyeglass case. So I've got overgrips in here. I've got bands. I've got edge tape. I've got both lead and tungsten.
Tungsten, okay.
Depending on kind of the application. Extra electrical tape, and then a little pair of scissors. And a corkscrew, because you never know when you're going to need a corkscrew after a hard day at the court. So that keeps me going. I don't think I've had to use this in like the middle of a game, but certainly before, like maybe after a warm up, I'll do a little bit of adjustment.
Right. I love the idea of putting it all in a case for glasses, a hard case, because I've been using Ziploc bags and they get all crinkly and gross, and it's hard to find them in the bottom of your bag. That's a really good way to organize that.
Yeah. Okay. This one's a little weird.
Okay, let's hear it.
But it's a pair of nail clippers.
I usually have those with me too. I forgot this time.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
you need them.
If you like crack a nail or something,
right?
It can mess up your day. It gets in your head.
For sure.
So I keep that with me. And then my paddles for this trip were the one I played with all day was this Mark 1.
Nice.
That I've really grown to love. I love the way it looks from the beginning.
Right.
But with the added weight here and an overgrip, this thing, no complaints.
You've been playing great with it. So you've been practicing with it as well, and lead up to the tournament. I noticed that. I mean, you play great with any paddle, but that one, I feel like it suits your game well.
This is a great paddle. If I feel like I need like a little bit extra room for two hands, a little bit more control for that backhand, it's there for me.
Did you weight those up where they're similar swing weights?
Yep, exactly the same.
Okay, what is that?
120.
120. Yeah, we're kind of in that 118, 121 range, both of us.
But man, you were talking about playing at sea level, coming from Colorado.
It's so different.
Man, you kind of feel like a superhero here. Just hit it as hard as you want. Nothing's going out.
So, yeah, the tournament I played in Denver last weekend, they were playing with the Yola Helios balls, which are crazy lively. Like, holy cow, those balls are fast. And man, I was used to playing indoors, first of all, and going outdoors and playing with the Helios balls. I just felt like I had no touch.
Yeah.
Soft game was here. You still are nervous, but man, that extra forgiveness that the ball and the
nice,
humidity
right?
gives. Yeah, I was just like, all right, I can drop in a
I think
tournament.
the pros should train in Denver.
Yeah, train at altitude for
Right.
various reasons, not just
Exactly.
cardiovascular. Yeah, for sure. Very cool. Well, we got a mess here now.
Spread out a little bit.
We did spread out. Let me open up my computer again and see what's next. Who's playing, Eddie?
Tyler Lung, Ignatowicz versus Johnson and Johnson. Oh, this should be a good match. Let's take a break.
Hey, nice.
Have a margarita. I think you got one over there waiting for you.
Oh, these are electrolytes.
I don't know. Somebody suggested today we do an all drinking episode. You okay with that?
Are you gonna drink?
Not today.
We could do that.
All right.
I think both of us are probably very conservative drunk people.
We'll see. Let us know in the comments if you want to see drunk Eddie and John on a podcast.
That would be funny, actually. All right, so do you have any updates on the Shapeshifter? So I mentioned in the review this week that part of the fun of having a podcast is we can give like running updates on the paddle. So I'm maining it. You've moved on, or maybe you're going to go back to it. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Shapeshifter?
It's still in the rotation.
Okay.
I'm still working through some configurations with the speed cap, not with the speed cap, how much weight with the speed cap in lead do I want to put on the face.
Right.
So not having exactly nailed that down yet. I didn't feel 100% confident in bringing that here.
Okay.
But it's definitely in the rotation. I do believe the future of that paddle for me is with the speed cap.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how much weight do I want on the face to balance things out.
Yeah, and I'm still where I am with my review this week. I'm loving this paddle. I did add a little bit more tungsten tape to the edges, and it helped. I think I was at like 5 grams total. I've boosted that to close to 10 grams. I think it's like 8 grams, so 4 on each side. It plays better than the 5 grams. And for some reason, the swing weight actually dropped a little bit. So I was like at 120, and I started it at the tip of the overgrip and brought it up to about the same height. And I think it's because, I don't know why, but the swing weight dropped 1 or 2 points. So it's actually, a little more maneuverable than the previous configuration with more weight. And I think, it's increasing A, the forgiveness, B, the power and pop, so it's really neat to be able to overclock your paddle in that way. And
right.
The speed caps, the slice caps do just that. They allow you to overclock the paddle by dropping the balance point and not hampering your maneuverability, but allowing you to increase the weight on the sides of your paddle to give you that forgiveness and all the other perks.
So I'm on board with the speed cap. I love it. I assume you are as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's for every paddle or every player.
That's my question is where do you see an application where it just is not going to work for somebody?
Yeah, if you love a head-heavy paddle, Salome Davidze style paddle,
right.
Or Anna Bright, or Anna Lee Waters, they all put like lead tape all the way around their paddle. You probably won't like the slice cap. And there's the advantages to having a head-heavy paddle, the power for sure. And that's something we should experiment is what if you take a paddle that's like 130 swing weight with lead all the way around it and put a slice cap on it? What does it do for the power and pop and the firepower metrics? And what does it do for hand speed? Can you notice, that lower balance point actually improves the hand speed even with the extra ounce of weight on something that's, head heavy to begin with?
Sounds like a fun experiment.
Yeah, we should do it. Let's move on to Q&A.
All right.
So,
looks like you got one picked out here.
Yes. So we had a question from Stymeron, Stymeron, who wrote, have you considered adding a rating of plushness or feel? Maybe give it a try even with only 5 scores from very stiff to very soft or plush. So this is something that he's asking for, like a subjective scale, like a scale that's not based on metrics, but just kind of how I feel about or how we feel about the plushness versus stiffness of a paddle. I found that this is one of the most subjective things about a paddle is how stiff it feels. You know, I think the Ruby feels very soft. I talked to somebody at the 6-0 event last year in Dallas who thought the Ruby felt stiffer than the double black diamond. To me, that's like, those are in different categories of stiffness. Double black diamond, very stiff. Ruby, more plush, right? And I consistently run up against people who have a different perception of how a paddle feels with regard to when you hit a ball with it, how soft does the face feel? I think you and I are pretty well in line with kind of our judgment on where it is. And I understand the question. I think it would be nice to add something to the paddle database. Do you have any thoughts on it before I get into the weeds a little more?
It is so subjective. It's hard to put a number on something like that is so in the feel of the user, right?
Right.
I've often thought that we should give our subjective thoughts on not so much softness and plushness or hardness, but how a paddle performs in different on-court scenarios, like a reset or a block or a drive.
I like that.
That's what I think we should be doing.
So take that 1 to 5 scale of subjectivity, put that into where the paddle
resets,
plays.
Plushness comes into play when you are resetting a ball or when you are dinking a ball. So that to me is what that 1 to 5 metric might actually be better interpreted as.
Right. No, I like that. That's a really good. We should do that for our next paddle bracket.
Yeah, at least in the preliminary rounds.
Right.
As we are talking about paddles, we were doing it on power pop, sweet spot, and spin last time.
Right.
But maybe
how it plays.
Gen 2 of our paddle bracket, we go, let's give a score for drives and serves.
For sure.
For dinks, for resets, for firefights, and, non-volley zone volleys.
I like it. Yeah, we'll test it out.
Okay.
That'll be the dry run of the Eddie scale.
But perhaps there's more to be said for plushness and softness.
I think so. So to go back to that question, I've been messing around with it. I wanted to quantify it, and I think I've talked about this before. I remember on podcast number 2, way back when we first started, I brought out the impact hammer that I bought. Right. It was delivered from China. It delivers, so you pull this plunger back and you press the end of it and it delivers 1 joule of energy. So it's like a thump, basically. And what I wanted to do was use that on the paddle face, clamp the paddle, put an accelerometer on it, so a vibrometer that measures vibration frequency, and then, mark off, let's say every inch in a grid on the paddle face and hit it dead center in the sweet spot with that 1 joule of energy with the impact hammer, measure the vibration frequency, and the vibrometer, the accelerometer I have also measures the tilt. So it's like a 3-dimensional tilt part of that accelerometer. And, clamp every paddle with the same grip strength and measure, how much the paddle tilts. Anyway, that didn't quite work out. I wasn't able to get the accelerometer to record what I wanted. Reached out to Brian at Graffiti. Similar story to most of our other metrics. And he started thinking about it. And he went much deeper than I did. Actually sent a company an idea, and they sent him back a quote, and it's going to be too cost prohibitive. But what he found was that you can do a modal analysis of exactly the methodology that I was wanting to use, an impact hammer accelerometer, and you grid off the paddle, you record all of these data, and then you can get the modal analysis is basically a heat map of the paddle face that's going to show a couple of things. One is where the sweet spot. It would be a map of the sweet spot, which would be phenomenal. Right. How awesome would that be to quantify the sweet spot? And secondly, it would allow you to kind of show where these modal areas of the paddle absorb vibrations better. And my hope would be that it would also show you kind of quantify how plush and stiff a paddle is. So circle back around to the first part of the question. That is where I was trying to do with the impact hammer and the accelerometer. It became, I think the quote was like $35,000, and I'm like, that's way out of my budget for what I want to do with this. Maybe if somebody gets the process started, let's say PPL, Pickle Pro Labs, has a use for this, I can borrow their methodology and who knows? Maybe it will be accessible for me at some point, or for us to use this. I would love to be able to do that. At this point, I think it's out of the question.
Man, that would be cool.
Yeah.
To be able to see square inches or whatever on a paddle face,
Right.
where you don't see tremendous drop off in power of a paddle,
Right.
or you don't see additional vibration. But to be able to quantify that, okay, this paddle has 7.92 square inches of sweet spot,
that'd be
and
sweet.
here's kind of what that looks like.
Yeah. That would be
Good
so
Lord,
nice.
you were onto something there.
Well, yeah, for $35,000, we could do that. I mean, I think, clearly I can't invest that kind of money in it. But yeah, Pickle Pro Labs, UPA-A, maybe it's not in their wheelhouse. It wouldn't be necessarily something that they would target, but maybe we can collaborate with these people and figure it out.
You bounce around a ball on a paddle, and you can feel that sweet spot, right?
For sure.
And if you could just sort of mark that area, man, that would be just incredible.
Yeah. So, food for thought.
Yes.
Good question. I appreciate the question. I think I'm going to refrain from doing a subjective 1 through 5 score just because it is so subjective and it's so different for different people. But just know that there are ideas floating around out there to actually quantify it. Eddie, my good friend.
I'm ready for a nap.
We have reached the end of, what podcast are we on? We're close
19.
to 20. 19. That's right. It's been a blast. Thank you.
Good work today, John.
Yeah.
Proud of you, buddy.
You too. Thanks for coming to San Clemente
Fought
with
like
me.
hell.
Yeah, we did. We scrapped our way to the finals.
It wasn't easy.
I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted after one bracket. Can you imagine these pros doing this every weekend, or close to every weekend?
Yeah. Are you done here? Are you doing mixed doubles?
No,
or
I'm done
singles?
for brackets. I'm gonna come and enjoy watching the pro events. Maybe shoot some more content.
Yep.
I was talking with Travis Rettmeyer. He said he might stop by for our podcast, but he didn't make it. But maybe we'll get some more interviews in.
That sounds great.
You're leaving Saturday or Sunday?
Friday.
Friday. Okay.
Yeah.
See.
But I'll be around to hopefully chat up some manufacturers and exhibitors and see what we can do.
Awesome. Great, Eddie.
All right. Good stuff, John.
Thanks so much. I'll see you I'll see you around here and then back in Denver, and we'll record next week.
All right.